Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is April 12th, Friday. We have, I believe, an extra Rise of the Shadows daily quest, and then it's going to become a question about which I want to play, and I guess we're still sticking with Paladin. So now it's going to be win victories with Paladin and Priest, and win 2 victories with the Mage. Tavern Brawls seem to have, at some point in the past couple of weeks, expanded how long they last without that being really announced as a thing. Because I feel like Tavern Brawls ended after 2 or 3 days, and they were happening on Wednesdays. Now it kind of feels like they end after 5 days, which, okay, I guess that makes more use of the Tavern Brawls. Let's just play Mage. I'm starting a little early today, which is not a phrase that I say very often at all. I guess we're gonna try the HS Replay Mage deck in ranked play. I would just kind of woke up a little bit early and figured we might as well start early and see what we can get done. I doubt any huge amount of news will happen later in the evening on a Friday, so I think we're cool with that. Bunch of spells, bunch of spell damage. I'm definitely not even sure what this deck is supposed to do, but I guess it's an Archmage Antonitis deck with using new twin spells and such. I played a little bit of Castlevania Lord of Shadows 2. The game is really striking me as stealing a lot of ideas from a lot of different games. It seems kind of pretty obvious that's exactly what they did. There are sections here that feel a lot like God of War, and that would make some sense to have a Castlevania game, or a game where you're playing as Dracula at least, fighting giant monsters in boss battles and doing a lot of hacking and slashing. Unfortunately, the similarities of God of War have not expanded so far in my gameplay to actually running into a lot of enemies, so that system seems to still be in production, or possibly just non-existent in the game. There's also shops in the game so that they can sell DLC to give you more items and more currency that just sticks out like a sore thumb. And the shopkeeper that I freed, which is this troll creature and comedic side character, is completely out of tone for the rest of the game, because Castlevania Lords of Shadows 2 so far has been this extremely edgy game. Like, every single animation has, well, not every single one, but nearly every single animation has Dracula either sticking his hand in the box causing him to bleed, biting his own wrist and dripping blood into a lock on the door to open a lock on the floor to open the door, or slicing your wrist on a blade to unlock a collectible. It's all very blood related, and I get it, he's a vampire, it makes sense. It's always his own blood though, and the animations take way too long in a lot of instances. that's the tone, and I'm kind of fine with that being the tone. It just feels weird after that point to deal 3 damage. Deal 3 damage after something is after it's frozen. Is this the best I can do? Yeah, it is, because I can't use this on anybody, on the hero, even if it is frozen. The jumping forward and backward in time concept that we're going through has mostly had me in the past, not in the modern time frame that they promised, which I'm frankly not amazingly surprised that that's happening. I figured they almost certainly bit off more than they could chew by promising that they were going to set Lord of Shadows 2 in the present day. The art style of the walls in the narrow hallways that you're in the present day are just kind of dark stone anyways, so they don't look modern. So there needed to be graffiti on the walls or something poster, something that really screamed, this is something that looks different from what you normally would see. Can I do this? Just gonna play this. Kill a bunch of minions this way, I guess. Up. Yeah, you're doing so little combat in Lord of Shadows so far. It's hard to get into it and even decide if it is good combat. I don't think it's the greatest. More you're doing a lot of Assassin's Creed platforming, which kind of makes sense if you're trying to convert a Metroidvania into a 3D game. Like that's not an insane thought, but it does kind of circle around the ideas that you're going to have a lot of platforms and a lot of different places to climb. And when you make a 3D climbing Assassin's Creed game, it's usually just a direct line from point A to point B, and Castlevania is no different than that. It's way less open world than the first Assassin's Creed game was, where every area potentially had hundreds upon hundreds of things, hundreds and hundreds of places you could climb to or jump to. Instead, it's very obvious that, hey, there's some bats over here telling you need to go to this ledge in Castlevania, and when you get on that ledge, the bats move to the next ledge, and you can only jump to that next ledge. Apparently after the beginning of the game, or because of the widescreen helper application, it turned off QuickTime events. Inside the menu it just says play without QuickTime events. If Mercury Stream and Konami had enough intelligence to realize, hey, the QuickTime events suck in this game, like they suck in all games, let's get rid of them, I have to applaud that. So yeah, by default it's turned off. I'm not gonna turn it back on. So I'm just playing the boss fights without QuickTime events, and they work just fine. And didn't need anything more. Alright.
You require my assistance. Aha! Aha!
Alright. So I can get...
Thanks. I'll destroy you last.
I mean, I can get a bunch of these. Certainly. But... unless he, with his 5 cards, can kill Archmage Antonidas, which he almost certainly can, this is going to take 3 or 4 turns to win. It's not the 1-turn kill with the Sorcerer's Apprentice. I didn't get as very many recordings for Castlevania, though. It seems like you spent at least an hour in the past and then maybe 30 minutes in the present. And I'm a little concerned because the only 2 places I've seen in the present so far are let's see. Is there a way to do this? 1 damage. 1 damage is over it. And then this. And then this.
Job's done.
Just getting tons of spells. I have to remember I'm playing ranked right now and not just having fun. Should probably be playing casual after this game. There's been some coverage of Elder Scrolls Blades, of just how terrible and greedy the beta is for people who've seen it and how it's been shown off. Yeah, no duh. A Bethesda game is greedy and terrible. That's pretty much every Bethesda game that has ever existed. But it does show a dark potential future, a potential dark timeline, as we see, we potentially could see AAA developers just go for cheap and easy money. Should have played this, actually. No, I couldn't have. So yeah, after today's recording, I've said in the past, hopefully I get back to recording. I don't know if that's really going to happen. I keep certainly bouncing off the problem of if I stream even slightly early here, and let's say we end at 5 o'clock in the evening for my time, which probably is not going to be the case. But even if that were to happen, that's not...
I'm ready.
It's just not enough time combined with energy for me to start recording even at 6 in the evening before it hits about 10 in the evening, and I want to try to start going to sleep, even though I know I'm not even going to go to sleep until 6 in the morning. So it's like 8 hours on average every night with insomnia, trying to find the elusive rest and
I'm ready.
So either I stay up all night and record, and then I sleep all day, and then we have, then by the time Monday rolls around, I'm waking up at 8 in the evening and streaming, which nobody wants to watch videos that late. So it just constantly, and this is a problem, I guess, in life for a lot of people. It's just constantly, even though you have 24 hours in a day, it doesn't feel like 24 hours in a day. There's always other things on. TV slightly distracts me, and Netflix slightly distracts me every now and then. Friday certainly isn't the day that's going to have anything of interest to watch, but there are things that come on Wednesday and Tuesday and Thursday, episodes of shows, which that takes more time. I was just thinking last night about how I really have not worked on my backup server, and I should get back to trying to get that to work. And I had a Raspberry Pi project that I was in the middle of building a case for, and I hurt my hands, but that was several months ago, and so if that's ever gonna get done, I need to get back to it, and certainly Lego distracts me.
Don't make me push buttons.
So I've just got like too many distractions.
Don't make me push buttons.
Too many distractions. Like there's too many distractions, too many different things.
Okay, then.
I just squelched this guy, so I don't know what he's trying to do. Let's start covering the news. There's not a ton of news. I did make the mistake of opening new games that came out before I had actually gotten around to closing the tabs from Wednesday. Like if this guy wants to win, but if he's not, I'm gonna play to try and win. So our first game today we have is called Easy Shooter. It clearly is a low effort game. Like just awful looking low polygon asset flip for free to play, English and Russian. It gets really hard to justify the Valve libertarian everything should have an opportunity to succeed mentality when you see so many people put their games out on Steam as if that's each player draws 2 cards. Be funny if he's somehow fatigued. Like I'm still with Valve in general on that idea, but there definitely is this undeniable fact that there's clearly a collection of developers of games and publishers of games that don't either have a clue what a quality game looks like, or do know what quality games look like and just don't care, and are trying to make the Steam storefront look worse. And an argument certainly could be made that since this is capitalism, since there's competition happening here, no other storefront that's on the level of Steam is allowing this level of quality at all. So it is a deplatforming argument, but arguably Steam is a platform. They are making choices as to what can be sold and what can't, even if it's only very minimal, moderate choices. Maybe they should do some minimal level of quality. Of course, everything I'm saying right now could be bounced right back onto YouTube, and I could easily find myself in the exact same boat where YouTube would just say the content that I make is not of any quality and shouldn't be allowed on YouTube. And certainly that would feel a lot different. So I guess this is really just the price of freedom. The price of non-censorship on Steam, or at least considerably small amounts of censorship on Steam, is probably the fact that we will see a collection of low-effort games that on a weekly basis we'll see more of, and then we'll immediately ignore. I think there's probably, though, some level of filtering you could do from the Unity store in particular, and RPG Maker in particular. But I don't know what you could do with that. Moving on from that rambling, we have an article here from TechRaptor. Everything Epic Games announces Vampire the Masquerade Blood Feud. So this is a publisher that apparently is not related to Epic video games? This is actually a board game. That's why I didn't see any other news about it. So, Vampire the Masquerade as a board game, though, is a thing that I think has basically existed for a long time and hasn't really had much of a drop-off, if I were to guess, in popularity. I do not know how to play this mage deck, quite honestly. I don't know if you're supposed to just sit on all of your cards and let the person play. And, like, this guy is sitting on his cards and just waiting too, so that makes, maybe that is what you're supposed to do.
We hunger for vengeance.
2 damage. That, and then do that. Next, we have a game on Steam called X Moon, which looks like it's probably an asset flip platforming game. Let's look at this video. Yeah, it looks like it's a laser puzzle game, actually, in 3D. Well, there is certainly something to be said about an attempt at more polish or in a 3D laser puzzle game with some platforming. Unfortunately, I would say this just looks too ugly. Early access for $19.99. 5 achievements that look like letters. So should I give this one a pass and put it on the follow list, or should I just eliminate it now? I think I have to eliminate X Moon right now, because the only reason I would put it on the follow list is in some hope and desire that they completely rechanged their graphics. Oh, I could have done that. And if they changed their graphics and made it look a lot better, then I would then allow it to stay on the follow list. But since they're not even to that point, I think they'd have to just relaunch their entire game under a different name or something. Next, we have a game on Steam called City Zombies, which is kind of a 2 zoomed in camera walking back and forth shooting zombies, a point defense, kind of tower defense, moving tower defense game. It looks like it's way too simplistic a game. It's discounted for $1.19 with 14 achievements. Yeah, just nothing really wrong with this game, just too simplistic. Maybe it would make a little bit more sense if you were playing a... Darn it, I should have played this first.
Science overwhelming.
Let's see, freeze a minion.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I totally played out of order there. But I could see the combination. I'm starting to see combinations that could be played. Yeah, City Zombies. Just maybe if you were playing it on a cell phone and it was just tap left and right, that might be fun for about 5 minutes, but even then it would get boring really quick. Next we have a game on Steam called Mystery Trackers Winter Point Tragedy Collector's Edition for Big Fish Games. Has been a couple of weeks since Big Fish Games released a hidden object game for $12.99. So yeah, they're out with another one. I guess in a lot of ways, if I was the person in charge of Valve's games that got on Valve or games that didn't, I probably would succumb to endless interference and decision making when a hands-off approach is probably a better move. Because it definitely occurs to me that something should be said about Big Fish Games. Like, we want your hidden object games, we like your hidden object games, but we don't like that they're $13 and that you're selling them as collector's editions. But yeah, I don't see a reason to actually why that would be a smart move financially or business wise to irritate your business partners by telling them they should be cheaper.
Science overwhelming.
Job's done.
I guess if Big Fish Games is happy with the level of sales that they make on Steam, and they probably are, because they probably are pushing most people just to go to their own website, where I imagine it's a lot cheaper to buy the hidden object games. That would be an interesting Epic Store type move if we started seeing AAA games like Borderlands 3 appear on Steam at the same time as Epic Store, but they're marked up 30% higher. So there just becomes this running Steam tax if you want to own the game on that platform. I think they probably recognize that would not go over well. Otherwise, they probably would have tried it by now.
Quickly.
This guy's toast.
Yeah, this mage deck not helping. Like, there's a strategy here, but I think I'm missing too many cards for the strategy to really work, and because of that, I think there's just kind of no hope. Yeah, in most cases playing this card, you're only going to get a couple spells.
Job's done.
Next we have an article on Gematsu. Aglios for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One is delayed to an unannounced release date. Aglios was previously planned to come out on April 25th. I don't remember this game though. It says it's a Wonder Boy inspired 2D action adventure game that first launched on PC in June 2018. So I should probably do some research and see what this looks like on Steam. So let's try that. It didn't really affect too much, but I had no internet service. My internet was down yesterday. I just throw that out there. It didn't really affect much, but it does probably remind me that I probably have some scheduling I need to do and I've been putting off. And frankly, I don't think I could ever motivate myself to do scheduling on the same day as stream Hearthstone. Because that game, like, the game of scheduling videos, scheduling videos sucks. Yeah, with no hope of it getting any better anytime soon. So now I'm just gonna try the auto-generated deal. I think that's probably a better move. So here's the game Aglios on Steam. It's rated very positively. It does look like a Super Mario Brothers style game, and so I guess Wonder Boy is about as close to that as you're gonna get. What's weird, I would say, is there's already kind of a lot of Wonder Boy games, I think, on Steam. So, and there's Shanti, of course. So I've often said I'm looking for a Super Mario Brothers game, and I guess I've failed to recognize the ones that already exist. So I'll make sure Aglios is on the follow mode, since it's rated positively.
The end is coming!
Let's see. To read the mage cards. Whenever this minion attacks, give your opponent a coin. Whenever minion's healed. Okay. Next we have a game on Steam called Sumi, which looks like it's a hack and slash game. Little top-down twin-stick shooter, but feels really fast-paced and more hack and slashy than that. There is this platform, and I don't like the way this platform looks. But the beginning of this trailer did catch my eye, but I guess that's just a cutscene. It seems like all the game stays on this one platform, and then you are able to purchase items and upgrades in between fights. It's $1.99. I'm gonna put this on the follow list because this looks like a game somebody's really tried to make good within what they were capable of doing, and I think that kind of effort deserves to be rewarded if we can. This guy is... I'm gonna start running out of cards if I'm not careful. Speaking of cards, we have a game on Steam called Cards, K-I-R-D-S. which looks like it is a deck building game, maybe a collectible card game using military art on the cards instead of the usual fantasy art, which is not a terrible thought. That certainly does take it in a different direction.
What to do?
However, it has in-app purchases, so it is a real collectible card game. I'm gonna put this on the fall list, but since it's free to play, I'm gonna skip it. I like this idea though, but then there is
Science overwhelmed.
almost certainly a question about how much of that card game with military memorabilia from World War II would sell throughout the world. And like, you have half of Europe is probably not going to want to play it, if not a significant part of Europe, and then you would also have problems selling it in any part of the East. So that's also going to be a problem. I could freeze a minion just so I get one more spell.
Feeble mind.
Right away.
Let's see. I'm just doing this, I guess, to freeze a minion, play this, and do this. And that gives me a bunch more spells. May actually win here. Yeah, I guess that is the big problem with any kind of military themed, and why it always is usually a theme around fantasy, is there's just too much danger. Let's see. Freeze all enemies, I guess.
Job done.
I guess you don't really have a way of fixing that. And anything based in the real world, particularly nowadays, is so controversial that you couldn't base it on anything without some potential backlash. Alright. This. And can't do anything more. So we can win next turn if this one can attack. And then nope. Guess we can't win next turn. This spell will cost 3 less. Let's go ahead and do this one. And this one. And then your turn. Moving on with the news, we're more focused on playing Hearthstone right now than telling the news, which is fine. Yakuza Kiwami 2 is coming to PC May 19th, bringing a pre-order bonus. What's the pre-order bonus? Let's see. Extra weapons, some fun outfits, and some in-game bonuses. Interesting. The Yakuza Kiwami series and the Yakuza series in general are in kind of a weird position because, let's see, can I play this and do this and succeed? Right, that leaves it at 4. I can draw cards. I can play this. And I can do this. And this. And just get rid of a bunch of cards. Yeah, I don't know about the Yakuza series. Even if it was gifted to me, it seems like it's going to be a hard commitment. It's probably a commitment I should make, though. Like, I've never played any of those games. It is almost certainly a game that I would try to walk through and just spend a minimalistic amount of time in it. So a lot of the side missions and the time wasting stuff would be stuff that I would try to avoid and have a straight run from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. Thank goodness it didn't give me another daily quest. Let's switch over to Paladin and play ranked for now. This next article has caught my attention. Gamatsu has an article here. Remothered sequel Going Porcelain announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Due out in 2020. What gets me about this is I'm fairly certain, or at least I thought, that Remothered hasn't even come out yet. And it was a weird looking horror game that I wasn't 100% sure was going to be a good game. Yeah, the first entry in the apparent trilogy now came out on April. No, it was awarded awards on April 11. It's available right now for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and Switch. Well, it's coming to Switch. Interesting. So there must have been something there that I did not catch. It must have just kind of snuck out without me knowing. Let's see.
Job's done.
See if I can find it on Steam. Yeah. Okay, this game came out on June 30th, 2018. I don't think it got a lot of coverage when it first came out, and it picked up coverage later when it was given some awards. It's mostly positive, though. So we're going back to the point where more and more I'm finding myself thinking to myself that, oh, these games, there's a lot of games I've missed that need to be on my wish list. I think it is past due at this point for a follow list cleanup. I don't know how I can justify having time to do that, though. I really don't think I have time to do it.
The light protects me.
Job's done.
Yeah. I think what's gonna happen is I need to probably be lazy and push off doing the follow list cleanup until December, and then, well, until I have pre-recorded footage of content for December, or up to December. And at that point, once I have that pre-recorded footage up to the December 1st, I'm gonna just have to do a follow-list cleanup like I did last December, where it's just one letter per of the alphabet per day. Not that that was particularly good content by any means, but that's kind of all I can think of to do. Okay.
For justice.
Show me.
And here. And then the turn. Moving on, we have an article here from TechRaptor. Epic Store exclusive Close to the Sun launches May 2nd on PC. This was a space-looking game that's kind of like Bioshock, or it looked kind of like Bioshock. Can we show a little bit of the trailer? I don't think that my own personal opinions on the Epic Store rise to the level that I should choose not to announce news when games come out. In the end, I am reporting on video game news, and the idea of I'm gonna completely blacklist talking about games feels way too much like what SJWs do with some games, and what happens with like visual novels and such. And if it's one thing I'm trying to do with my channel, it's trying to be as open as possible. And while I'll throw my opinion out there and say that a Steam game looks like garbage, usually speaking, there have been many instances when this isn't the case, but usually speaking, I will show off even a garbage game. It's kind of a time permitting thing more than anything else.
Follow the rules.
I'm invincible.
Show me.
For justice.
Job's done.
Again, I would also say Close to the Sun looks like a game, at least in its trailer, that might be very good. So I do want to see it succeed. Like, I want that game to be good for when it comes out from that exclusivity deal, so that I could still have reason to and want to play that game. Arguably, the Epic Store exclusivity might be good for people like me with huge backlogs too. If a significant amount of games are just unplayable, but that's a stupid argument to make. Less choice is never better.
Close the gates. I'm invincible.
I don't know what that was.
For justice.
Go ahead and kill this guy, yeah. TechRaptor has an article here. Limited edition Detective Pikachu card will be given away during the premiere weekend. So if you go to the movie Detective Pikachu, you'll get a Pokemon the trading card game. It premieres May 10th, 2019. It's a limited edition in the sense that there's a limited amount being printed. The amount being printed, I suspect, is going to be pretty high, though, so I wouldn't immediately take that to mean that the card is ever going to be worth anything. They did similar things in other Pokemon movies, and I certainly would question the logic of taking kids and people who were young enough to want to be playing Pokemon the card game to the Detective Pikachu movie, because that's kind of for an older audience, if it's for anybody. And then I guess in the bigger question I'd have to ask, is it actually for anybody? Because I think the answer might be it's not. It just does not line up or look right compared to the other Pokemon movies.
The light protects me.
And Pokemon as a series
Reporting for duty.
kind of feels like a weird series at this point because you've got this huge media genre thing that's been going on for years and years now, and yet it's not. It's peaked and it's not going to get any bigger. But it's still also huge. It feels a lot like Mickey Mouse is, and you can see how Disney does very, very little with Mickey Mouse these days, and yet Disneyland still succeeds perfectly fine. And these few very early age Mickey Mouse shows. Still, yeah, the few Mickey Mouse shows still manage to get the target market of the extremely young. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Witch Thief for Nintendo Switch has a release date. This game looked very interesting, Ghibli-esque in its animation when I first saw it. Unfortunately, I don't think it's coming to anything other than the Switch. Oh wait, nope, it's already on Steam. And I have just lost it. I've seen so many games that there's like I cannot keep in my head what games exist and what games don't. So here's Witch Thief. It's a 3D bullet hell shooter game. I don't think it's probably too long of a game, but it is an interesting. It looks a lot like Fury, which is a game I would like to play. So okay. What's weird about this came out in 2018, September 20th, 2018, so it's about a year old, and it only has 6 user reviews. So we're running into this problem where games look interesting. They might even come to Steam, but it kind of doesn't matter because in the long run, it's nobody's reviewing it. We can see over here, Witch Thief. We have one negative review. I like the idea of the game. It's even fun to play, but it's too frustrating. The camera sucks. The game is Smite style pseudo 3D. The final boss of the first stage has stuff coming from behind you, which are really awkward to dodge since you can't see them. This is a few positive reviews. Another negative review, and then a bunch of positive reviews of people who got the game for free. So this developer seems to have made a decent game, probably not a great game, and done terrible advertisement. And let's see, the other games they've made are rated positively. But my whole theory of having a follow list is falling apart when also my ranking is falling apart. Let's just play this. Yeah. If there aren't enough reviews on games, that's a problem. Even a year later, which we're not quite to a year. We're half a year, 6 months later.
Anduin versus
yeah,
Uther.
That's a problem.
The light
That
shall
is
bring victory.
disconcerting. Meanwhile, over here on Hearthstone, we're just banging our heads against the wall trying to get victories. Next game we have on Steam is called the Coloring Game. It's paint by numbers, color by numbers, using a mouse, which is not really something that would be interesting, frankly. It's just a stupid concept that makes sense for a 2-year-old and doesn't make sense for anything else. And doesn't make sense that it's digital. This game is free to play and doesn't have any in-game purchases, so I guess you have that going for you. But yeah, in general,
I just want some peace and quiet.
interesting. I guess I could have silenced this guy. The concept of painting by numbers are the problem. Like, it's just never gonna work.
Follow the rule.
Digitally. Oh yes, I totally boned this. So we have a card here that can't attack. We have a card there that can't attack. I screwed up so much. Next we have a game on Steam called Arch MMO2. It looks like a Roblox clone asset flip survival game for $12.74. Does not look interesting, and it's multiplayer only on top of that. Yeah, if I had silenced this guy, doubled his health, changed his attack, this could have easily been a 2-turn victory later on. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Hentai Girl Karen, tagged with nudity and sexual content. It's another slide puzzle game for 59 cents. There's a whole combination of these. Whole bundle of it. 100 achievements, so it's an achievement game. The achievements have a letter so you can spell things out. Yeah, that's not good. That's not a good quality product, but it is a nice canary in the coal mine, and it seems like we've seen maybe a slowdown in general of games coming out on Steam. Maybe that is Valve like making it slightly more difficult to put games on Steam, or requiring some better verification. I would imagine to put your game on Steam, there probably should be something along the lines of, we need you to scan a photo ID of yourself. We need your address. We're gonna mail something to your address, which is a code, and you're gonna have to type in this code to prove you live there. In the next couple of weeks, and if you don't type in that code quickly enough, then we're going to not allow you to do Steam Direct. They probably couldn't do anything more than that, but there are also just some straight up verification services, at least in the United States. There's a system called E-Verify that I've heard about and don't know a lot about, to know if somebody's ID, social security numbers and stuff are legitimate or not. So they could go through systems like that. They could do a few things to at least scare away or make only people who are really, really serious about it. And maybe they are doing something a little bit more controlling. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, because then that would also explain what their main goal would be, which is to not publish controversial games or have games with controversial titles or descriptions in their listing. Like, there's been 2 or 3 games with names similar to Baby Killing Simulator that have been listed on the Steam Direct and Valve Steam pages, and I'm thinking maybe now they're holding things back for approval, which would be cool, because that means then there's hope for Valve and hope for Steam to not just be flooded with games that never actually even come out, which has been a major issue, certainly, of like games that say they're coming soon and never do. Next we have a game on Steam called Dating Mining Zero. I'm fairly certain that there was already a game called Data Mining. This is part of the Blender Games bundle, a bunch of low effort games. There are still some major players here, and I wonder if maybe some of these troll game developers have just got in early enough where it's given them some level of special protection against leaving the storefront. Like, if you really have made a couple thousand sales because you've put out so many games and they were all low effort games, but it didn't matter, maybe Valve just looks at the numbers and goes, well, actually, we've got such a business dealing with them now that it wouldn't make sense to end it. Alright, let's do this. That'll kill that. And that's all I need to do. I feel like the music may be different in Hearthstone. Seems like this might be a new, like, heavier on the flute version of the song, of the music. Next we have a game on Steam called Mower Problem, which looks like a low effort lawn mowing simulator game. It's probably a puzzle where you can't leave any part of the map unmowed without overlapping, which in this case, if you have to start here and then you went down here and came over here and then came up to this point, well, no, that would bump in, so it would have to be this point, which that works fine, and then you could come up to this point, but you couldn't do it. This puzzle's not solvable if that's what you're supposed to do. No, you could. Wait, you go here and then this way and then this way and then up this way, and then you would finish right here, and that would solve the entire place. Or if you came and went straight down, you could go up here and then here and finish there. And I guess it doesn't matter where you finish when you're yeah, it doesn't matter where you finish when you're mowing the lawn, because you'll just turn the lawnmower off at that point. So yeah, if that's what that game is, it's an interesting idea. It's just not pretty looking or worth actually playing. That's like a real world job problem, not a video game problem. 15% off for $3.39 also. I was asking quite a bit. Alright. Next elemental, spellbinder, and let's see.
Mojo magic.
Freezing trap. Okay. No big deal then. I was going to skip talking about GameIndustry.biz this stream, but I guess since they have real news, I've failed in that hope that I could eliminate them as a potential news source. So we're gonna have to talk about this story. I think it's definitely worth talking about. Okay. Freeze. Deal 2 damage to it. If I did 2 damage to it, it wouldn't do anything. Do this. So I played a lot of spells this turn.
Job done.
So we have a story here from GameIndustry.biz. Epic Games hires Jason West. Respawn and Infinity Ward co-founder returns to game development after a 6-year hiatus. 6 years is potentially an entire career for a new video game developer. For somebody who was a founder of a company and a boss, it's probably not a huge difference, but it might be, because it might mean that he may want games that look like games that from 6 years ago. And this is more of the problem because you have this issue where the games of note that Epic makes are basically just Fortnite, and interesting. And if Epic continues to make better games and more games, well, they're going to become Epic Store exclusives permanently. And Epic really is the kind of game company that should be broken up as kind of a monopoly, because you've got a game development company, you've got a platform holding company, which is the same for Valve. And in all honesty, if Valve was split from Steam and Valve could only make money buying making games, that would have been better for society. Certainly. Just a better experience in general for society. Do this. Let's see. Just gonna play these cards. Thank you. Jason West is best known for his work. The article continues. Sorry, got quiet there, got distracted. He's best known for his work at the Call of Duty developer Infinity Ward and Titanfall outfit Respawn. So there was some love for Titanfall 1 and less love for Titanfall 2, but still a little bit. Of the Call of Duty series, some of them I assume had to have been good for it to have gone as far as it did. Let's see, discover a card, 3 damage and freeze it. Let's see. 5 damage split between all enemies. And Yeah, these cards just give you like infinite cards.
Lord, your magic!
Time runs out on me.
Could have done this too. That would have been smart, frankly. I could have played one of those and got one more spell card.
Here comes the big ass.
Let's see if there's anything more to talk about on this. The next paragraph goes, despite that success, because I was talking about Jason West's success, Activision fired West and Zampanella for breach of contract and insubordination in 2010, which at a high level, breach of contract and insubordination means they really did not, Activision did really not want him in charge or around anymore, which set each player to, let's see, how about we summon 2 of these? There you go, how do you like that? I kind of would love to read the story here on why they were fired for insubordination and breach of contract, so I'm going to click on that link. This set off a round of legal actions that included testimony from the former IT head of Activision that he was directed to hack West and Zampanella's computers, phones, and email to dig up dirt that could be used to fire them. Activision would eventually pay an unspecified amount to settle the dispute in 2012. And Activision Blizzard, parent company that owns Hearthstone, has been falling apart at this point for the past year or so. So this
Unity, precision,
this may be a case of them feeling like they can hire a bunch of good employees from Activision Blizzard who've been laid off or about to be laid off and bringing them to the Epic store, which would just solidify Epic as maybe a better game company. I mean, there's always that hope, there's always that desire, I suppose, that Epic uses that Fortnite money and starts making better games, and in the long run, better games are what everybody wants. A month after West and Zampanella were fired, they established Respawn as an independent studio with a backing from EA. West then retired before the first game's release in March of 2013, citing family issues as the reason for the departure, and 6 years later he's back. So I mean, it might actually have been like a long-term family issue of some sort, some kind of medical thing, but it might also have just been he didn't want to be the person in charge of Respawn, having to deal with Respawn. Let's see what this does. Finally, we see the explosive trap. I've been waiting for it this whole time. Holding the explosive trap till 10th turn. That is really, really long. And this, to get to this point, has been really, really long too. Alright, we just need a paladin or a priest game. Let's try this one. I guess I might as well just play ranked. Like, up or down, it doesn't really matter. Ranked is the way to go. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Hovership Havoc, which is like a top-down twin-stick shooter with a hover ship that you're flying.
With honor.
It looks a lot more polished than a lot of games, but it really doesn't look polished enough to convince me to want to play this. I don't know, some of this trailer actually is selling me on this. $8.99. I'm gonna put it on the fall list. And then I'm gonna have to make a decision almost certainly before it ever gets even 20 reviews. Next we have a game on Steam called Devil Shaft the Tower, which looks like it's a combination of assets for some kind of side-scrolling hack and slash game. Yeah. This does not look like it has any polish to it at all.
I wonder.
It's 15% off for $5.09 and already has several blurry looking images that are available as shop items, which is the new scam. And a bunch of achievements. 7 achievements.
Got something to hide?
Probably have a ton of news still. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article. Animoca Brands acquires a majority stake in Trilliana Dev Skytree for $85,000. $850,000. Seems like it's a mobile game publisher. I'm not sure what this game is. Let's see. Hong Kong based. It's probably a gacha game. It looks a lot like Destiny Child, but I'm not sure. Let's see. They're extremely excited to bring the opportunity of Trillionia to blockchain. So many insane blockchain schemes going on.
Show me.
Let's see. I just searched Trilliana and it Google translated it immediately to trillion. And the second link took me to some fashion brand. So, like, whatever that game is, it is not well known, even to the internet. Cast a random secret. There it is.
Show me.
Let's see. Next, we have a Gametsu article. Hajime Tabata Studio, JP Game, announces Paralympic Sports RPG The Pegasus Dream Tour. I don't know if this is
I just want
some
peace and
really
quiet.
weird game, or if this is a Japanese company actually trying to be friendly to disabled people. Now, here's the thing about disabilities in Japan, as I understand it. Japanese in general want to be all the same. They think they're all the same. They think they all have naturally black hair. They all think alike and are alike. Being disabled in any way is a slap in the face of reality against that. And to my understanding, that means that anybody with any real disability is usually forced to leave their schools and go to a special school for disabled people, which happens in the United States too, but usually isn't the case. In the United States, people with minor disabilities are in the same class as people who are not disabled at all. That all being said, there are a couple of big, hugely successful animes and mangas that came out, and this is where I'm coming from on this. One of which was a girl who was deaf, and there was, I believe, another one where a girl was wheelchair bound, and they were popular. Even in the case of Code Geass, which is a pretty old anime, one of the main characters' sister was wheelchair bound. So there might be some changing attitudes there, and more acceptance and admittance that that is a real thing. There's also less of a just assumption that if you happen to be missing a finger that you're a Yakuza member, even if you are like born with a missing finger or something. So that prejudice is also, I assume, slightly dying away. So that would be the argument for this. Speaking of arguments for things, are we done with the daily quest on the Americas count? Yes, we are. It would be the argument for this to be something like that. I would also suspect that the Paralympics are not in the same host country as the Olympics, but I don't know about that. So that it might be a case that if you host the Olympics, you are forced to host the Paralympics, and that might be something that would stop some countries from wanting to host the Olympics. Anybody with half a brain wouldn't really want to host the Olympics because while it brings a lot of prestige, it also is a huge tax scam that benefits the Olympics Committee, as I understand it. And none of the athletes get paid anything, barely anything. It could also be that the Japanese Olympics fever is just spreading to somebody saying, well, we can't make an Olympics game, but we could make it a Paralympics game and stand out that way. Let's disenchant all these cards. That was 18 cards, which left one new card in those 4 packs. But I mean, whatever. I guess in the long run, that was a epic card, and we'll build up our dust, and maybe we'll have even more dust next time the next expansion comes out. Moving over to the European account. So, looking at the screen, what do we see here? We see these Pegasus angel-like creatures. One has got a special running leg replacement. The other has I assume this is a Steam attachment, and this one is like a basketball wheelchair-bound person. Take note, no Japanese people here. Nothing close to a Japanese person being shown, so there's something to that. You have a bright red skinned, a bright purple skinned, and another purple skinned creature. So they're not going the full route with it, but even meeting halfway is kind of surprising. I guess we're going to be playing the Warlock, and probably playing ranked, because that won't matter any. So let's do that. JP Games, the article starts, the studio that established Final Fantasy 15 the studio established by Final Fantasy 15 director Hajime Tabata, the guy who quit Square Enix. He was the first guy of the last 3 guys, or 3 or 4 guys, to quit Square Enix. has announced the Pegasus Dream Tour, the first official game of the International Paralympic Committee. So he's got a contract with the Paralympic Committee, which I think is different than the Olympic Committee, but probably not much better, but I don't know enough about that. It's being created with the concept of taking RPG to the next level and creating an abundant future with games. And will launch worldwide in 2020 for various platforms, including smartphones. So it's RPG game mechanics, and that's a little surprising because you would think it would be a collection of sports games, but I imagine they don't have enough staff or experience to make sports games. The game is being created with the aim of boosting popularity of the Paralympic sports, with the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games opening in 500 days time. So there is a Paralympic Games. I guess you do have to have the Paralympic Games if you host the Olympics. Unless I've just completely lost the plot and they were only hosting the Paralympics, which I don't think that's the case. Let's see. The Pegasus Dream Tour, blah blah blah, is a completely new sports role-playing game where players participate in virtual Paralympic games that take place inside a fantasy metropolis known as Pegasus City. Here players awaken their special abilities or extra powers in an alternate Paralympics world dynamically rendered in ways that only video games can achieve, and the makers are planning for the Pegasus Dream Tour to be accessible on various platforms, including smartphones. So, I imagine what that means is each one will have, like, each character will have an animation, and those animations will look cool. Like, I'm sure the basketball player will have something like a slam dunk animation, and then the slam dunk animation will actually touch any of the enemies or do anything. It will just cause an explosion or something to happen on the enemies that you're playing against, and then damage will be calculated. There's a quote here: "This is not just an ordinary video game about sports. JP Games is going to represent fully the wonders of that are unique to the Paralympic sports in the brand new role-playing game, a genre we excel in. With this video game, we want to contribute to the future growth of the Paralympic Games, not just as a sporting event, but as an entertainment as well, with the contents that we hope will have a lasting value in our future." Now, it is almost a pointless circular logic thing to say, but I will say it.
I fight.
People who perform in the Paralympics are not your average disabled person by any means whatsoever. And they represent disabled people as much as a 500-meter dash runner represents the average person on the planet. Like, which is to say, not at all. Like, whether you're in the Olympics, the regular Olympics, or the Paralympics, you are at the peak of ability in the activity you're participating in. You are way, way more physically capable than most people on the planet. That being said, representation of any kind opens new people up to awareness that yes, these people exist, and no, they aren't just all complete and total worthless burdens on society. Particularly in Japan, that's where I imagine a lot of this is going to come from, is is that I imagine the Japanese people probably don't want to. They probably don't have much interest in watching the Paralympic Games, and this hopefully improves that. But I don't know how much it would. I would also hope that the Paralympic Games has got a couple of mangas out there that they've licensed, and commercials, and maybe a movie even, and an anime, and just like try to go full media in Japan to really get people to watch it. Because particularly as far as TV is concerned, that's something where it's inside the homes of Japanese people, and what happens inside a Japanese person's home is their true feelings often, and their true desires, and it's not them feeling like they have a social obligation or burden to do something. And it really doesn't help a lot if the Japanese people just felt like they were socially obliged to watch the Paralympics, which, I mean, it might help the Paralympics, but it doesn't help the Japanese people in particular become more accepting of disabled people. But yeah, that's what the Olympics in general, though, is about. It's about trying to spread cultural ideas and spread progressive mentalities of some sort, some old school progressive mentalities of equality and democracy in general, and freedom. So yeah, this is interesting in a lot of different ways. That being said, it is also worth mentioning Hajime Tabata was allegedly the person who was constantly changing his mind and changing what he wanted for Final Fantasy 15. And so if he manages to screw up this the Pegasus Dream Tour, and it does not come out on time, which is very typical for a Japanese video game company to miss deadlines and push things back. Like, you really can't do that when it's tied into the Paralympics. So he's got 500 days to make an RPG. It can't be that good in 500 days. That's less than 2 years. It should have been 4 years plus. So that this is just under that time crunch, and knowing the person in charge, a game that probably is doomed to fail. So yeah, that's another thing to consider. Certainly. What were our options here on the European account? Warlock or Priest? We'll try Priest then. Where is it? Here it is. Next we have a game on Steam called Holy Road, which is tagged nudity and sexual content, but it really looks like it's just an RPG Maker game. Although maybe it's a city management game?
Anduin versus Thrall.
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of a city management game with some lewd imagery just crammed in. $15.99 with discount. Yep. There's a lot of these games that come out English and Chinese and no Japanese. I would have said this was a Japanese game, actually. There's a lot of these games that come out and don't even bother to try to get on Steam because they are just terrible RPG Maker games with maybe a dozen images. And don't get me wrong, Honey Pop was a game that barely had a dozen images of nudity, probably more closer to 3 or 4 dozen, but they were just still images, and that was it. So that can definitely be a selling point for games, but it is almost always disappointing if you're going into a game to see nudity. It's like, if you want to see nudity, you know, Pornhub exists. It's free if you're age appropriate to go there. It has an infinite amount of nudity in it. The internet in general exists, and tons of nudity is free. Buying a low quality RPG game and then banging your head against a wall to get through that RPG game to see those images is ridiculous. Destiny Child is the game I'm looking at that has the characters are slightly in lewd poses and lewd costumes as little anime girls. But that's a game that you can play free to play, and it plays itself, and you're looking at the characters all the time because they're in your team fighting, but also there was no work to unlock those characters really. There's still a lot of characters to unlock certainly, but there's very, very little work to get to that. If I was 20-30 hours into Destiny Child and one of the characters' lewd outfits had unlocked, I'd be like, oh, this is not worth it at all. And frankly, Destiny Child is a time waster game that I'm just playing with because I'm looking for a new game to replace some of my older time waster games. And you know, compared to Clash Royale, which takes a lot more energy and doesn't successfully entertain as much,
Job's done.
Destiny Child's feeling a little bit better. They put out a new update for it, by the way, that just kind of added a world boss where you're trying to defeat this world boss while everybody else is trying to defeat the world boss. And that's how it keeps itself fresh, is that I imagine every month there will be some new element that comes and goes. It gives you something extra to do on top of all the other extra things to do. But there really are like 20 different ways to play it. Let's see. We have an article here on Gametsu. Azure Lane Crosswave details game modes. This is, I think, a cell phone game of boats fighting each other, anime girls commanding boats, or the anime girls transforming the boats.
What to do?
Yeah, doesn't look interesting to me, frankly. It's a little too weird, and I certainly have no interest in naval combat. Next, we have a game on Steam called Killstreak.tv, which one would assume if you're going to name that as your game, you would own that website domain, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. This looks like a free-to-play asset flip shooter game. You're just floating, your feet are not walking in a normal pace. Yeah, free to play with some DLC and no in-app purchases yet, but also nothing interesting. Let's see.
Whispers everywhere.
Your turn to bleed.
There is little time.
Next we have a game on Steam called Leaf, which says it's an action adventure game. And it looks like it is an action adventure game with isometric views. It's tagged casual, so it might be short and simple. They want $14.99. I kind of would like some information about how long this game is. It says price seems steep, but it's worth every penny. I'll put this on the file list. It looks polished enough for what it is. Deal 6 damage to this minion and heal. What do I want to do?
Your turn to bleed. She's here.
Kill that. I should kill that.
Your turn to bleed.
Job done.
I have no idea what I'm even doing. Not even paying attention. After this attacks and kills a minion, you may attack again. Okay. There's a ton of priest cards with a lot of health, so I assume I'm eventually going to run into a turn your health into attack. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Get a job. Heart Machine is hiring a quality assurance lead. That's in Culver City, California. I think that's a new job listing. Yeah, I'm wondering at this point if I'm gonna end up having all the news done and not all the daily quests done. Summon 3 friendly minions that died this turn.
This might hurt.
Okay.
Smash.
Hit this guy. Hit this. Hit this. Hit this. Hit this. And that, and that. And I don't want to kill my guy.
My hand is too full.
Start burning cards. Next we have a game on Steam called Shy Adventures. It looks like a Game Boy game. And I cannot be sold on a Game Boy game. So I'm not interested. $2.99 discounted. Portuguese and Spanish, Latin America is the languages. Just don't make it look like a Game Boy game, and I'll at least consider it. But frankly, for those tiny pixely images, I probably still wouldn't have considered it much. Next we have a game on Steam called Crix, C-R-I-X, which seems to be just a bunch of low effort assets mixed together for $4.99. Nope. Do I want to take care of anything? Yeah, I'll take control of that. I feel like this alone might win the game for me. Next we have a game on Steam called Bubbles the Cat, which is a Super Meat Boy-esque / Flappy Bird spikes puzzle jumper, infinite runner type game. It's one of the games that would certainly drive me crazy for its difficulty level being way too hard. $7.99. No interest in Bubbles the Cat.
Little time.
Lose 1 health for each card in your opponent's hand. Ooh, I didn't realize that's how that worked. Next we have a game on Steam called Hot Lap Heroes. It looks like it's a arcade style racing game. Looks rather polished, frankly. There's been several of these on the wish list and I really just need to find the best one. So I'll put this on the follow list and it should just be another contender. It's discounted for $6.79. Seems like it was a mobile game. Meanwhile, over here I'm losing. Well, I guess we're slowly playing spells. It's blurry screen again. We're getting the blurry screen rather consistently at this point. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. Ubisoft removed slur from the Division 2. Publisher apologizes for in-game street art imagery depicting police officer with a slur in elite speak. What was the slur? 15 pictures down in the album. Yeah, that's real helpful. The slur is written in elite speak and appears on the badge of a police officer depicted on a piece of street office. It was brought to her attention, blah blah blah. What's funny is this is not the only slur that has been removed from let's see, that was removed because there was also like a homophobic slur that is in another article. So I guess we'll just end this turn here. So here, this is the Imager album. Spell check fails, another finny bit. Cook's Cashier, I suppose. That was supposed to be. Tip over hazard. It says, Hazard. So clearly, network is misspelled. Somebody is. Monday's not the first day of the week in the United States, although this is the first day of the business week.
I wonder.
So whoever was working on this was not even a native English speaker. In a lot of these cases. Service, service. Just a bunch of misspellings. And the Division 2 is not a good enough game to be so loose with its quality, particularly when it's such a highly funded game. Okay. I can't read it. Zoom in. Zoom in. Zoom, 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 zoom. Zoom up to 500%. And
I wonder. Why do you call?
playing this wrong. Okay. So at 500% zoom, the way Imager is working, it's showing me this title box. It's FA6607. So it's not a, it's homophobic, I guess, if you want to say that. Yes, I guess agree that it is a homophobic slur. But one article reports it as a slur against the cops, and one article reports it as a slur against homosexuals, as an entire protected class. Interesting. SJW idea. But I've always imagined myself having maybe one 15-minute stand-up comedy act, and there, but ignoring that for a second, Keenan and Peele, I think, did a skit that really explains it well too, where in my mind the F word for mostly gay men, in my mind it was always kind of something explicitly used as an insult, even used by other gay men potentially, to describe somebody who is extremely all about them being gay. They talk with a lisp. They wear sequin, bright colored images. They have phallic necklaces and jewelry on. Like, they're screaming out into the world, even in inappropriate, often professional or business locations, that they are gay. And the Keenan and Peele sketch, I think, in particular, does a great job of showing that, because it's like, oh, the guy that's telling him, you're just too much, you're too extreme, you're not acting professional in this professional environment. And he's like, I'm gay too, but you don't see me going on and on about it. So yeah, in my mind, the F word is not for all gay people. It is for the annoying gay people who always talk about them being gay, who are basically identity politics players, who are in part SJWs for that reason, because that's what, well, I guess, I think pretty much makes you an SJW. If you're running around only saying you're gay, if that's the only thing that defines your personality, and you've got nothing else to say, that's annoying. Now, how does this relate to anything? Nothing. Just I'm reminded of that sketch. Sure, okay. Somebody hates cops and decided that would be a funny thing to do. Clearly there's no QA happening at EA, and that's what inherently this is the problem, is that EA, well, no, I'm saying EA, it's actually Ubisoft. Ubisoft, like, needs to do better. They have the money. They need to have somebody looking at all the art. This is the same issue in a lot of ways as the game that came out on Steam, and some artists snuck in insults against the Chinese president. It's like, this is not good for business. It's not helpful at all. And in particular, hating all cops is not a helpful attitude at all. You should hate the bad cops that are breaking the law and doing bad for society, and try our very best to appreciate the good ones that are actually trying to better the world. Yeah, but as for Ubisoft and the Division 2 is still a boring game, and Ubisoft clearly not paying enough attention to their art workers. The fact that somebody felt free to do that either means that that employee was disgruntled or not being observed closely
The light
enough.
protects me.
And that's something that should be addressed. Like it could be a bigger problem too. Certainly, it could be that the persons and people in charge of QA are not doing their job, or they have a bad attitude or perspective that's going to hurt the company in the long run. But it is also kind of like a non-story too. Like you can't even really make a controversy about it. It's more of a oops, somebody snuck that in without our permission, we're gonna get rid of that right now. Moving on to the next story, because I want to burn through the story pretty quickly. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Weedcraft Inc. meets an advertising and video blocks. The tycoon game about growing and selling marijuana has its Facebook page restricted and its YouTube video demonetized. Not really surprising there. You really couldn't have expected it to go any other way, at least in the next few years. There is a long list of weed growing mobile games out there. This one is slightly different because it was published by Devolver Digital, which is a medium tier publisher that we know of. That being said, yeah, of course its YouTube videos are going to be demonetized. Why is Weedcraft Inc.'s videos demonetized in the first place? They're just giving out information and promoting their products. They're already advertising their own products, which inherently means there is a baked-in ad in all of Weedcraft's videos, and baked-in ads are not allowed on YouTube at all. As for Facebook, Facebook is desperately struggling and trying to appear family friendly. So, of course, Facebook is going to restrict that page. Although it doesn't sound like they deleted it, which is a little surprising. Let's see. 3 cards. I can destroy this. Do this. And I can
Your magic shall not save
and I can do this. And that's just going to be explosive trap, almost certainly. There's an article here. I don't even know where it's from. Futurism.com. Schools in 8 states now have varsity video game teams. CNN apparently found that in 2018, Connecticut, Georgia, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Alabama, Mississippi, and Texas began offering esports as an option for studios, whereas New York and New Jersey also considering them as well. Now, I don't know what the word varsity means, because I'm almost certain that way more schools, college schools, I assume these are colleges. Oh no, these are high schools. Interesting. So, when you're saying varsity, does that mean you're getting credit for playing the games? Or it's just a social club? I guess it means you're getting credit for playing the games. In the same way that a varsity football player would be getting credits. Let's see, how many demons do we actually control? None. Well, that's useless.
Bubble, bubble, the calm before the storm. We are one.
Let's go ahead and
Mage.
build this guy.
Job's done.
This is probably not a good idea, frankly. Having social groups of people who like to play video games means one thing, certainly, but giving school credit for any sport, in my mind, is probably stupid and should be gotten rid of at the high school level and at the college level going forward. Like, I was thinking about it just a month ago or so about how most colleges can't afford to do this, but they should just get rid of all their sports programs. If it's anything other than just you can play sports if you want to, that should be about as much as it could. Because maybe you give them a field and some sports equipment, and that's it. Like, you shouldn't be getting grades for that. That's not what colleges and schools should be about. Colleges should be about doing the arts and the sciences and learning that. Physical exertion doesn't make sense. Getting credit for PE doesn't make sense. Not that it shouldn't be encouraged, but even physical education and being healthy is a far cry from playing sports. Playing sports is actually unhealthy at a certain level because it's stressing your body in ways it shouldn't be. It's overexerting yourself. So yeah, not a good idea. Not a good idea because esports is not going to be a career in the future, except for a tiny, small number of people. We're not going to become a world where 50% of the population are all esports player and the other 50% of the population watches esports as often and as long as people who watch football these days do, or people who watch cricket or soccer or any and all of the other sports. It's just not something education should be focused on. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. The legal dispute between Take-Two, Rockstar, and the Pinkertons have ended. The Pinkerton National Detective Agency was suing them for mentioning the Pinkertons of the old days and showing them to be basically hired guns, which is exactly what they were. So their complaint, I think, in general was invalid because they were complaining about how they were being depicted, and I think they were being depicted accurately. The voluntary dismissal of the lawsuit well, interesting. Take-Two and Rockstar have dismissed the lawsuit that was jointly filed against the Pinkerton Consulting Investigations, ending a legal dispute that sprung up in response to Red Dead Redemption's use of the Pinkerton National Detective Agency. so it's not even the same name. But this is funny because this is phrased as if this is the countersuit that Take-Two and Rockstar filed after the Pinkertons sued them. And this may not mean anything. They may refile, because if you're voluntarily pulling or dismissing a lawsuit, doesn't mean it's being dismissed with prejudice. So you may very well see them just refile with a better argument later.
My shield for Argus.
The Take-Two lawsuit was in response to one filed by the Pinkerton against both the game company around the same time. In a statement to GameIndustry.biz, Pinkerton's original lawsuit accused Take-Two and Rockstar of violating their trademark on the Pinkerton name by making the Pinkerton National Detective Agency and Pinkerton agents prominent parts of the story in Red Dead Redemption 2, which is not an argument that is going to stand up in court. By that same argument, by me reading this article and by the person who wrote this article mentioning the Pinkertons were violating their trademark, which is not true. Take-Two and Rockstar's countersuit, meanwhile, alleged that the real-world Pinkertons were overextending their rights over the name, and the Rockstar's reference to the historical Pinkerton National Detective Agency were protected under the First Amendment. So this is a weird end of this. So as far as it seems, the original lawsuit is still ongoing or being fought out, and Rockstar and Take-Two withdrew their lawsuit, which wouldn't make a lot of sense for them to do that, even if it was just a terrible lawsuit, because they would still, I imagine, want to maintain pressure until the original lawsuit was dropped. But I don't know what happened here. This is bad investigative journalism, quite frankly, to not have been found out or gotten a quote to explain the story. It's like, why did you drop your lawsuit when you're still being sued, or are you still being sued? Did you come to a friendly agreement? Random. Yeah, I don't think I like these lackeys. I don't think I like them. Let's see, I'm gonna play this. No, I'm gonna do this.
Job done.
Variety has an article here. Anthem voice actor on unionization and the struggles of creation. So this is Sarah Elema, the voice of the Gone Home protagonist, as well as Anthem.
What was lost can be found
Now,
again.
she almost certainly is part of the Voice Actors Guild, so her opinion on unionization is probably, yeah. She's involved working with the SAG-AFTRA Screen Actors Guild to work union. So yeah, she's in there. The differences are quite a few, frankly, though, between a screen actor, voice actors, and video game developers. So if video game developers are going to unionize, I'm not even 100% sure that that is going to be something that would help your efforts. Like, because her experiences and her advice are going to come from just a slightly different angle. But the generic things are still the same. Like, work conditions from one union to the other are all the same. You want less hours, less demanding work. If you're have to do something dangerous, that there are accommodations to reduce the danger as much as possible. In the case of voice actors, they were striking previously for gigs where they had to yell for long periods of time and wear out their voice. A video game programmer probably needs a comfy chair and a wrist guard, and just avoiding repetitive stress injuries. So yeah, there's some stuff there, but that is also, I guess, an article. Summon a beast from my hand. What do we want to do? Still not gonna work. Yeah, I really don't have time though personally to read variety articles. It is extremely early days in my opinion before video games developers would unionize, and quite frankly there's a lot of people that want to make video games around the world that you could easily fire anybody that tries to unionize, or shut down shops, entire businesses that tries to unionize, and ship off to another country for a lot of the development. Paladin and Priest. You know, one thing that occurred to me is Gearbox is in north of Dallas, Texas. It's North Dallas, or a suburb of North Dallas. If somebody out there could run a business and get the funding, so you're talking potentially, I would say at least $100 million. If you can get $100 million over the course of investment to start a new video game company in just next door to Gearbox, you could possibly convince a lot of employees who have left Gearbox to come work for you, and convince a lot of current Gearbox employees to come work for you, with the full intention that that you would be running this company, trying to just get people away from Randy Pitchford, which I think could happen pretty easily if there was somebody charismatic enough and could raise that money. So if anybody out there has that business, that money raising ability and that business running ability, that is an opportunity. And I'm a little surprised that 2K hasn't tried it themselves. It would be really easy for 2K to say, hey, we're just going to open a new office over here in North Dallas and have our own in-house development team instead of Gearbox. But I don't think 2K works that way. That's kind of more of a fantasy what-if scenario than any real news or anything. There's no news to that. It's just something that occurred to me. And it's also totally possible that there are things that wouldn't occur to you if you tried to do that. Like maybe most of the employees at Gearbox really do like Gearbox or Randy Pitchford and wouldn't jump ship so easily.
You're back. Come tell us a story or two.
Let's see. I would say Gearbox probably treats its employees rather well, so I wouldn't be surprised if too many didn't jump ship. Alright, we're on the European account now. Let's hope we can get some victories. Gamma Sutra has an article. Sony will start replacing offensive PSN IDs with temporary placeholders. So, like, one day after they made it available to, they made it available to change offensive PSNs.
I will fight with honor.
They're getting replaced with temporary things just called temp and then a bunch of numbers. It also says it's notable news given that Sony used to ban PSN users outright for the offense, and the change will likely save the console maker and PlayStation owners a lot of hassle in the long run. Interesting. Yeah, I guess that was the only thing they could do, is just completely ban people for offensive names. On the other hand, that is also a bit of a statement to point out that depending on who's applying the rules, the new Sony entertainment offices in California might be applying different rules than the Sony of Japan offices would have been applying. So we might see a considerable uptick in people's accounts getting changed to temporary names. And you're gonna almost certainly see people upset with their name being changed without their approval.
I'll never tell.
Next we have a game on Steam called F-18 Carrier Landing, which seems like it is simply a simulation of landing on a aircraft carrier, which isn't varied enough to interest me. Quite frankly, it requires Oculus Rift. It's $4.99, which is too cheap for a VR game. You're only playing one type of airplane and you're only doing one type of mission. That's not good enough.
Follow the rules.
Yeah, that is just not good enough quality of a game to deserve consideration. Next we have a game on Steam called Hedonism, like hedonism or something, misspelled. It looks like it's just a low polygon, low effort, totally accurate battle simulator clone for $5.09 discounted. Yeah, nothing there that interests. Next we have a game on Steam called The Force Tale, which looks like it's a platforming game. It looks polished enough here. So, looks like a Jazz Jackrabbit clone. Actually, there was a game called Jazz Jackrabbit. Looked exactly like this. $4.99. I'll put it on the fall list, although it probably doesn't even deserve that much. Lost my secret. What did this guy do?
Time's up.
Yeah,
Let's
Job done.
Gamma Sutra has an interesting article. Nepal bans PUBG over addiction concerns in children. The Nepal Telecommunications Authority has ordered a ban on the Battle Royale game. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, saying the game's addictive nature has potential violent influence on children. Children are to blame for the decision. Report that an order has been given to all internet service providers and mobile operators and network service providers to block streaming of the game starting today. So it is a 100% full out ban. So it seems like these events are happening more often. More totalitarian actions, more crackdowns on kids, more. A lot of times it probably is just organizations pretending like they're doing something for society, even for their tax dollars. And I don't know what the sentimentality in Nepal is, if this was a ban that was received hugely well in Nepal or horribly disliked in Nepal. Also, more than likely, as often is the case in a lot of these instances, I wouldn't be surprised if people in Nepal actually haven't even heard about the ban, and it was either completely not reported on due to censorship or just underreported because of a lack of interest. For all I know, there was actually no people playing PUBG in Nepal anyways. It is a flawed argument, certainly, to ban PUBG and not Fortnite, because as it seems, kids are playing Fortnite, not PUBG. PUBG costs money. So the argument kind of falls apart. But I think we'll probably see quite a few more of these types of articles. Next we have a game on Steam called Deck of Ashes, which is a deck building card game. It looks really well polished for what it is. I assume it's a deck building card game. Early access, single player only, has 41 achievements. This doesn't have any in-app purchases, and it doesn't have any DLC right now, so my guess is you get all of the cards eventually just through playing the game. There's been quite a few. Slay the Tower, I think, is another game like this that came earlier. Quite a few games like this. This concept is something that
Let me think.
I think people have realized kind of works. It works, I think, a little bit better because it's newer than your old standard RPG gameplay mechanic, which is what I bet a lot of these games are just replacing. Instead of having you grind by just pressing a button to activate an attack, have a card game mechanic in it that it feels like there's more strategy and more interaction happening. I wouldn't even be surprised if a lot of JRPGs start shifting into the deck building concept. Let's see. Just playing as many spells as possible.
Close the gates. Reporting justice.
Let's see. If I can get this guy to draw a bunch of cards, that would be cool. Gematsu has an article here. WayForward developed River City Girls has been rated in Australia. WayForward is the developer of Shanti and some of the other games. Seems like there's no other information though. So maybe there's a new game called River City Grove. I don't know if it's part of one of their already existing series, or if it's going to be part of something else. We're still trying to get a victory with 3 victories of Paladin and Warrior. I'll probably have to play off screen to do this. Paladin and Warrior? Was that really what I just read? Paladin and Warrior. Interesting. Alright. I'm gonna just switch over to casual. Gamatsu has an article over here. Super Neptunia RPG for the PlayStation 4 and Switch have been delayed to summer. So, feels like there's at least 2, if not 3 Neptunia games, and one of them is a cell phone game. PC version is also coming out in the summer, so it seems like everything is coming out in the summer now.
Shall be mine. Victory or death.
Still not sure I want to really play the entirety of the Neptunia series or any of the Neptunia games, but there's so many of them, they deserve some consideration. This is an interesting story we don't get very often. A couple of unannounced Nicholas PlayStation 4 and Vita physical games have been stolen and sold on eBay. This is for the game 1001 Spikes and VVVs, what the pictures are showing. But it's not a limited physical run, so you're getting ripped off, according to Nicholas, only on Twitter feed. It's like, don't fall for this. These games are going to come out. You can just buy a copy. Also, these were promo copies, and they're not covered by warranty, nor do they include the bonus goodies that you love.
The light protects me.
So, like, buying this would be really, really not helpful for anybody except for collectors. Now, collectors would love those games because they've got a story behind them, too. These are stolen promo copies. That makes them more valuable to collectors and nobody else. And that doesn't mean that they will actually have any real value to them. They may always only be worth about $10.
A stranger will offer you aid.
Next, we have an article on Gamatsu. Hitman 2's content roadmap has been announced. Here's a picture showing off what they're planning on doing. Hitman 1, the reboot, was very well covered and probably overhyped and overcovered. Hitman 2 is available for PS4, Xbox One, and PC right now. By the mainstream video game media, they talked about it probably way too much. And I think Hitman 1 is a good game. I think Hitman 2 is a good game. I'm just kind of questioning how many people are really finding time and have interest to play Hitman 2, because the way that game was released, it should have, in my opinion, been a single player experience and not this year-long experience to try to get people to come back and play the game. No game is going to convince me, as somebody who has way too many games in their backlog, to come back and play it again and again and again, with the exception of Hearthstone, which the only thing that ever convinced me to play Hearthstone again and again and again is the daily quests and the fact that it gets me a small number of YouTube video views. That's it.
Engaging TC-130, mental dislocator.
Deal 4 to an undamaged minion, or to a damaged minion. Well,
The future
kill that
is
guy.
now.
Hit that. My turn. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The Epic founder Tim Sweeney denies Epic Games Store security breaches. The founder of Epic Games has taken to Twitter to deny several claims that there have been a security breach at the Epic Games Store. The comments came during a conversation that the same Twitter thread was being used to discuss spyware claims late last week. Several Twitter users were discussing the safety of using the Epic Store, as well as the fact that numerous account security breach emails had allegedly been sent out to users claiming people are trying to access their account. So this is probably more mudslinging than truth, frankly, and it's not really a security it's not really a security breach for a website to auto-generate an email saying, hey, somebody just failed to log into your account. Maybe you should keep that in mind. It doesn't even really mean anything, though. Let's see. The exact denial here is from Tim Sweeney. The one that matters, I think, here. Epic Games login data has not been leaked. Rather, hackers using databases of email addresses and password combinations that were leaked from other sites and attempt to log into Epic and other services using the same credentials. Always use a unique password everywhere, which is good advice, certainly. So, and that's basically where I would assume is the case too, is that this is just a case of people are trying to see if the password that got stolen from some other place is being reused in the Epic Games Store. Although I would argue, what's even the point of that? Like, maybe you could get a credit card credentials after that point. Yeah, maybe, just maybe you could buy games on that Epic account and then play the games. I guess that would be the best thing you could do, to hack somebody's Epic Store account. But I don't think you're going to get the credit card info or other bits of info. But you probably will find something, at least something that would make it worth your while to be used, that could be used later. Rush Death Island. Rush. I'm trying really hard to win here. Next we have a game on Steam called Mine the Gold, which looks like it is probably not much of a game, frankly. Like, I assume what you're gonna do is just tap a button and then you're just angling one way or the other for the bits of gold. Yeah, this does not look like a fun experience. 10% off for $1.79. Like that's at best that's a little mini game that you'd find in like a Fallout. Like that feels like a mini game, certainly. That would. This feels like something you could have in Fallout every now and then to do, like a lock-picking minigame. This isn't a standalone experience, though, by any means. Let's see. 10 damage to a minion. 7 damage to a minion. Refresh the hero power.
What fools these mortals be!
My dragon be hungry.
Next we have a game on Steam called Egg Escape, which is just dual jump clone, not even in widescreen, for 59 cents. Nothing interesting there. Another standard experience with Hearthstone here. Just driving yourself crazy trying to get victories. And I would say that this is probably a pretty good Friday too, because I'm not just dragging butt and falling asleep. That being said, I'm already 20 minutes over what I would like to have ended at, and I started early. Next we have an article here on TechRaptor. Upcoming roguelike RPG Vanguard's Cold Souls pushes back its release date. I think we may have already talked about this, and I don't think I know anything about this game either. So if it has been a thing, I've missed it. Darksiders 3 from THQ Nordic has a new game plus mode now, which basically, from my perspective, tells me that they should have waited and released Darksiders 3 right now. There's been so many changes made to Darksiders 3 in particular. Its original Dark Souls-esque combat style that didn't really fit with the game was replaced with an easier, closer to the first Darksiders action experience. Now there's a new game plus mode, so anybody hyped on the game 6 months ago or so when it came out is probably super irritated with it. On top of that, you really have to question the mental idea of having the new game plus feature and having this game come out in general, and then THQ Nordic doing a bad job to support and promote the game after it came out. I think they did a pretty great job pre-release with Darksiders 3, but then they kind of just abandoned it. And then THQ Nordic went on their 8chan AMA, which certainly didn't help things. And then THQ Nordic, after that point, has been almost completely silent, when that's just not... It's a lack of thought, it seems, for any post-game advertisement and support, when really you should be totally focused on seeing that the first year or so gets Darksiders 3 in particular up in the sales numbers. By this point I would have wanted to see that Darksiders 3 has sold 1 million copies, 2 million copies, 3 million copies or more. There's an article I saw for some game that said they sold 500,000 copies after a year, and I'm like, that number's not actually that high, but it's an indie developer, and at least that's probably a pretty good number for them. As far as I recall, I have not seen any sales numbers for Darksiders 3. It probably wasn't well received. I didn't buy Darksiders 3 and I was super hyped on it, quite frankly. So there definitely was something to that. 2019, I've been calling the year of bankruptcies and the year of going out of business, but 2019 is also lining up as from my player perspective as a year of good games coming out that I don't bother to play, which that's not what I would want as far as an experience. So redemption, auto defense, and never surrender. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Drive for Your Life, which is just an infinite driver in which you're driving over zombies. Just kind of an asset flip game.
Let's see.
The video shows it a little bit better. It's 89 cents discounted. Yeah. Just nothing, really. Just a nothing, mediocre, minimal effort game.
Let's see.
Twitch had problems, but also the affiliates with 35 or more subscriber points can unlock up to 4 emote slots. On April 11th, they discovered an issue where users receiving their were not receiving their bits after watching ads. They fixed the problem and have credited those bits to the affected users. Bits, something I didn't even remember existed, are kind of like pennies, basically fractions of pennies that you can earn by watching ads and gift to people who stream on Twitch. Sid Alpha mentioned that yet another person has been kicked off Patreon. I'm still sticking with Patreon as much as it's still have no supporters on Patreon. But
how about
that's just because I'm a small-time content creator more than anything else. I didn't even get the full story on who the next person was that was kicked off, but must not have been too big of a person because I didn't see any other stories reported by any other YouTubers. So maybe that's just slightly breaking news, but I don't know.
time goes short?
Yeah. One thing Sid Alpha in particular said that was very, very appropriate and seems accurate is that leaving Patreon for another service is kind of impossible right now because there aren't any other services that are in any way as good as Patreon is. And I'm still asking people to just find one person to subscribe to my channel. That's all I really would like. They don't have to watch any videos. Let's just get my YouTube channel back up over 1,000 subscribers, and so I can run a single ad at the beginning of the episode and get a few pennies per view. I'm not even sure, frankly, at this point, if I am getting... I think I'm still getting the views I used to get, but it's been hard to even keep up with that. So I might be losing views. Probably am. I'm airing less content, so it would make sense if I'm losing views because of that alone. But even spending the time to do the investigation is not worth it until I have 1,000 subscribers. Or YouTube changes the goalpost again, and then it requires 2,000 subscribers. Or I get 1,000 subscribers and then YouTube says we're still not monetizing your channel. That did occur to me for all the games that I show and news that I talk about. Maybe they decide that that's not what they want to monetize. Let's see. Let's just go ahead and do this. Next we have a game on Steam called Talk Hardcore. This is a cell phone game that's just been ported where you just spin these shapes and connect each point and have a final picture at the end. It's not well explained at all. This is kind of a solved solution for this one puzzle, but it's not really solved or explained in any way, and there's no breadcrumbing or explanation, so it just starts scrambled, and then there is a solution programmed into the game that is the right solution, and that's kind of all there is. Sure, it's not worth even the 79 cents. This is also from a developer who's got 12 different games. Several of them are Talk or OIK, and 72 achievements. It's clearly an achievement game. It's kind of an example of a mobile game that's slightly successful, and yet you would just call it an achievement game, the version that is available on Steam, and yet I imagine Steam does not want to alienate a developer who has a mobile game that sells at least slightly well. I assume it's the same developer that makes the mobile game. And TechRaptor's website's not working again. Who are their browser supporter? They're Cloudflare, and they must not be paying for the good service at Cloudflare in general, just not giving them good service.
Show me.
Play well conservatively here. Finally, TechRaptor's page loaded. Senkai Zero review, clones and mystery at the end of the world. So yeah, they're all clones. Here you can see where I guess they're cloned from an umbilical machine or their DNA. I think they also age really fast in this dungeon crawler game, inspired slightly by Danganronpa, and I think it might be from some of the creators of it. What did TechRaptor give it as a review? This is what I was looking for, and it was something that I was going to be hard pressed to get, quite frankly, because I know Kotaku, Giant Bomb, all the bigger mainstream video game companies probably not going to touch Zenkai Zero with a 10-foot pole. I mean, they're almost certainly not going to bother to play the game or review it, and even if they did review it, they're probably going to just hate on it. The summary that TechRaptor gave is Zenkai Zero takes the dark and compelling storyline of Lankarsi Danganronpa and successfully applies it to a new genre, mixing together heavy simulation elements with a deep narrative and first-person dungeon crawling. This might not be the game for anyone, but if you're I would assume that it's supposed to be, this might not be the game for everyone, but if you're in for a wild adventure, this might be your cup of tea. Pros are complex survival elements, interesting story, inviting difficulty, and humor to break the chaos. Cons are, but keep an eye on them, and but very anime. This, I think, is the new reviewer, because he's doing the ... at the beginning here, and ... He's using ... way too much.
Let me think.
And I don't know what the cons mean, but keep an eye on them. Let's see. Do I want to attack? I think I do. I'll just do this. Do this.
Reporting for duty.
Mix that. Alright.
I fight.
Did that. And
For justice.
That.
The battle.
Alright, I made it. Alright, well, I'm fairly certain Zenkai Zero was already on my fall list, but I'll make sure to put it on the wish list at this point. Now that I've seen a review, I'm willing to feel a little bit at ease that it's a dungeon crawler, because that was the one thing that I was afraid of, is that it was just gonna be a super grindy, bad dungeon crawler that just had a lot of flash to it. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. Netty's investment is bringing indies east. Simon Sell offers insight into the company's recent investment strategy, including smaller studios like Second Dinner and That Game Company. Second Dinner being Ben Brode's company, the person who was the main face for Hearthstone. Let me see if there's anything in this article that really makes sense. They were trying really, really hard, at least Ben Brode was, to bring Hearthstone and make it popular in China, and we'll have to see if they're still going to try that hard. I can state that as far as it looked like, there was no big release or announcement for Rise of the Shadows in China like some of the previous expansions were.
Uther versus Valera.
What?
Second Dinner apparently is also led by Hamilton Chu, who also were the Hearthstone leads. I think NetEase had a partnership with Blizzard, so they have some cronyism going on there, as typical. No big surprise there. That Ben Brode starts a new company and all of his relationships and friends that he's worked with are willing to invest into it. But also it's worth mentioning that Second Dinner has the Marvel card game that they're working on, so that is a good investment, almost certainly. Yeah. Here's a questionable quote, if I've ever seen one. Asia is usually about 2 to 3 years ahead of the rest of the world in terms of what business models for games are popular. I don't agree with that at all. I cannot, in no way agree with that extremely broad blanket statement. Are you going to argue that Asia had more mobile games before a lot of Western countries? Sure. But then if you're gonna try and expand that and say all the mobile games and the many varied ways in which those mobile games made money were huge successes as business models, that's ridiculous. Let's see. Yep. I guess at this point completely failed to eliminate GameIndustry.biz. I'm gonna have, if I'm gonna be able to stop following them for news, I'm gonna have to find something that reports on everything they report on. And since they often are the first quoted source on news, that's gonna be really, really hard. Next we have a game on Steam called DH Witch, which has things shooting you from off screen, so it's already terrible video game design. Just flying around in a side shooter game. Looks particularly slow for a shooter also. It's $1.21 discounted. I have about 20 more pages left, but that doesn't inherently mean it's 20 more games. YouTube had its problems too. I don't know why I'm talking about this always, but videos were saying video unavailable on some recently uploaded videos on April 11th. So,
I'll never
yeah,
tell.
problems.
The pleasure is mine.
Job done.
Problems abound for all the streaming services. Tech Raptor has an article here. The Doom mod Sigil is delayed again until the first week of May. This is John Romero, I believe the guy who made Doom. But I think he's kind of just working on his own, so he's probably gonna end up bouncing the schedule and delaying it several times, and he's just full-heartedly announcing the game before it's finished. In the case of this mod as a sequel / mod of Doom, it should have just come out completely finished as a surprise release, because I assume he is working by himself and doesn't have the funding to do the advertisement that would be necessary and do the business scheduling and planning that would be necessary around that. And that's why it is occurring the way it is and getting pushed back.
Job's done.
Next we have a game on Steam called Tiny Tanks, which looks like a tank game where you're just fighting on small platforms and you may have like a orbital shot that destroys the platforms also. I assume that's what that is. That being said, there's nothing interesting looking here. Early access and discounted to $8.99. That's quite expensive for what it looks like. Calling anything tiny in your game is kind of just an admittance that your game is small and lacking in content. It's not a good label, as much as it's often tried to be sold as a good label. Next we have a game on Steam called Luminos, which seems like it's some kind of color puzzle game. Some kind of platforming crystal game where you jump through the crystals and change the color. So yeah. So really this is just a color swapping Flappy Bird game. And I think I've seen something like this in the past month or so, and I probably dismissed it for the same reason I want to dismiss this one. It just looks like you're not doing anything other than playing Flappy Bird. And yeah, $2.09 discounted.
I wonder.
Doesn't look engaging enough to be a good video game.
For justice! For justice! Reporting for duty.
Tech Raptor has this crowdfunding spotlight, which I normally skip this, but it's Antstream Retro Games streaming. I think I may have talked about this before and said, well, if you're streaming old games from something like Atari, and that money is going, the monthly service money is going to Antstream, and even if that money is going to Atari, you're not really funding the development of any new Atari games, because the Atari holding company that exists now is not going to make any new games, and it's certainly not the team that worked in Atari in the 70s. So there's kind of a feeling here that these games are are close to abandonware or not abandonware, or even if you don't want to make the argument of abandonware, the funding the ability to play old games is not helping the video game industry in any way. It's not helping the people that are the actual creators of these games. You would be better off seeing if you could hunt down and PayPal the actual developers of these games. Particularly some of the older ones, the people are going to be straight up dead. They're so old, or out of the video game industry in general. And so that was the attitude that I had instead saw on this. And then I saw a YouTube video promoting this, and they tried to make the exact argument opposite to that. Like, oh no, by buying the streaming service, you paying a monthly fee on the streaming services, you will be actually supporting these old developers. And I'm like, no you won't. Absolutely not. And there is also some weirdness here, is that if you're paying a if you're paying a monthly service to a streaming service of retro games, all they can do is try and add more retro games. That is literally all they can do. There's kind of no other thing they could do. Well, I mean, you could maybe hire teams to make games that look like retro games, but that probably would not work that well. So, while I legally can encourage anybody to do anything illegal, I think there are freer ways to play retro games. There are a lot of retro games you can buy on Steam, and then maybe go get the ROM somewhere else if the Steam version isn't the right file that you would need to run on an emulator. If you want to run it on an emulator and have a better experience, there is a long history of old games being run poorly in their Steam versions, but this AntStream idea is not something that I think I can get behind or support. TechRaptor mentions that currently this Kickstarter for AntStream is sitting at $23,500 of its $65,275 goal, and has 30 days left. So that is a particularly low amount of money, and this is a Kickstarter, so there's always the odd chance of somebody taking the money and run. But yeah, that's not what you need for a streaming service at all. You need millions and millions of dollars. And questionable, why do you need a streaming service for video games that are retro games in the first place? Like, almost certainly you would do better to have it just be a download with DRM versions service instead of having it stream. And I imagine that's probably what it really is that you download the entire ROM that's less than a megabyte for most of those games, and you just play it. Google Stadia might get pushed as a little bit to run emulators perfectly with 100% accuracy on older games, and that would just be like a case-by-case basis. That is the problem with current retro arc cores in general, is that they're constantly just updating and putting in bits of code, so this game runs the way it should, and this game should run the way it should. It's not a one and done solution, but that's the only reason I could think you'd want to stream the game, is that there would be this constant attempt and support to add more accuracy to the emulation of a game. But that would be a lot of effort and a lot of money. Speaking of a lot of money, for a very small niche group of people who would want to play those old games. And most of the people who want to play retro games are technical enough to figure out how to do it themselves. And probably in some small way want to do it themselves.
Reporting for duty.
What does this guy do? Whenever you shuffle a card in your deck, add a copy to your hand. Interesting. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Ghost Giant Physical Edition launches May 7th in North America. I've not heard of a game called Ghost Giant. Apparently it was a VR exclusive that's coming out May 7th for $29.99. I've not heard anything about this game. So it must have just been a... It's E for everyone, so it must be some kind of kids VR game that was released in Asia. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. Telltale's The Walking Dead, quote, made Skybound what it is. Skybound Studios CEO Dan Murray says episodic game had more impact on the company than the TV show. Of course, Skybound Studios, before they acquired or reacquired the rights to the Telltale Walking Dead game, did not really have any successes and barely have successes even now. Meanwhile, I heard that the latest season finale of the Walking Dead TV series was the lowest ever, but it's still pretty high and doing fine.
Victory or death.
I don't think there's a lot more for me to say about the Telltale's The Walking Dead. Eventually, when it comes out of being an Epic Store exclusive, I'll play it, I guess, and finish the story. And then that will be that. And then there's probably 3 or 4 Telltale games that I have. And then with just kind of a whimper, Telltale will disappear from the types of games I cover because they're out of business.
Why do you call?
Well, this Tickraptor article doesn't want to load, but I could probably guess what it says. Let's see. Let's just add 2 dragons to our hand. Alright.
Job
Finally
done.
loaded. Tickraptor has an article here. Sekiro shows die twice. Sold over 2 million copies in less than 10 days. I also heard that there's a PC mod that will slow down the game. Just hack it basically to slow down the game and make it easier. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is a Activision game. I did not realize that. Interesting. So it'd probably be a interesting look to see what games Activision has actually released in over the course of the past 2 or 3 years. I think they released Anthem. I imagine there's a few other games out there, but I imagine not too many, or nothing that would surprise me. But then I would have guessed that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was a Square Enix game, frankly. A Japanese, a more Japanese focused developer, publisher. Moving on, Tickraptor has an article. Eric Chahahi fronted studio announces a new VR title called Paper Beast. It's a origami Paper Beast. Is there anything else to really say? There's a trailer here. I'll watch it while I play over here. Just gonna play this.
What fools these mortals be!
So I'm seeing a desert with a lot of paper beasts as I'm jumping around. Yeah, this kind of looks a lot like that game Prey, I think was the name of it. The one where there were these robotic looking animals that you had to hunt down. but it's a VR game. This Paper Beast is, and it doesn't seem like you're really going to interact with the animals too much. Probably just going to look at them, maybe pet them, and that'll be about it.
Foolish.
Let's see. Well, this next game is tagged nudity, which is interesting. So we have a game on Steam called Candy Girl, which looks like it's a live action model, a real model for 69 cents discounted. Classic match 3 game. You don't see a lot of this, and in a weird way, this is going to push Steam in a different direction, because Steam has just been dealing with animated, mostly anime characters and nudity. When it's real people, when the Twitch thoughts out there, and when the amateur porn stars out there see that there actually is money to make here by licensing their images, assuming this game actually licensed these images and then just steal them themselves. Is this the new thing? Will this start flooding the Steam game store? Or will it turn out that there really isn't as much of an audience for that as you would think, because the people that play video games are used to looking at a lot of animated characters and relating to those characters pretty well. I'm not going to say video game players are afraid of real people or anything like that, but I'm not sure that there's a major desire to see full motion video type images in games. Full motion video point and click adventures, for example, always interesting to me as a small niche product, but they never really sell that well. And certainly getting away from just the lewd aspect, basketball, football games, first-person shooter games, they all could have had full face scan real images in their games. Probably wouldn't look that good, but also those games certainly could have had real live video of characters, and that's never really worked and never really sold. The Madden games could have had straight images of John Madden, but they just use his voice and then animate him, I think, in most games.
I will fight with honor. So it'll be interesting to see if we see more games like that, and if that causes any controversy. I imagine it won't. Next we have a game on Steam here called First Person Tennis, the Real Tennis Simulator. Again, swinging your arms around while not being able to see anything because you're wearing a VR headset. Slightly dangerous prospect. That being said, this doesn't look too bad, and it's $20 discounted, so the price is high enough to make me actually believe it might be a good game. It's also rated very positively, so this deserves to be on the follow list. So apparently this is like some kind of famous tennis player. We're playing against them in VR for the trailer. Yeah, I'll put that on the follow list. If I ever get VR, a good quality tennis simulator game would be something you're looking for. Next we have a game called Callisto, which looks like it's a horror walking simulator of some sort. Really dark, except for those scenes where it's really bright. And I'm not seeing any enemies or anything. I'm just seeing a walk around an environment. Is this good enough for a follow? I think it might be. Looks like this guy's not playing, which is
Reporting
good.
for duty.
Give me that free victory. Callisto is $4.24 with a 15% discount. And take a look here. There is a update. How to get to level 2. So this might be one of those games that claims there's a level 2, but it's impossible to actually get there. And 10 achievements. Yeah, I'm not seeing enough to keep me interested in this, so I'm gonna close that tab. That was close, possibly because I'm running out of mental energy and lowering my standards because of that. Next we have a game on Steam called Sin Slayers: The First Sin. Looks like it's an RPG that's animated pretty well. This doesn't look terrible. It's rated mostly positively. It's free, or free to play. I see no in-app purchases, and it's in English and Russian. Apparently it was a Kickstarter. So this might be a demo game. I'd say check it out. Now, I don't have any reason personally to cover free games. Just go check it out if it looks interesting. Sin Slayers: The First Sin. My guess is there will be a attempt to make an entire Sin Slayers series. I have about 6 more pages. Next, Gematsu has an article. Octopath Traveler is coming to PC on June 7th. PC version available via Steam and the Square Enix store. It's been announced now by Square Enix. It was leaked out earlier. Okay, well, when that comes out on June 7th, I'll potentially put it on the fall list, and then maybe a long time from now I'll get around to actually playing it. That Octopath Traveler in particular would be a JRPG game of a very different flavor, so it would be a great game to put in between playing something like Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 13 if I was going to play both of those.
I fight.
There we go. TechRaptor has an article, Unheard reviews sound design. Now I heard that Unheard wasn't that good. So let's see what TechRaptor has to say. I gave it a 6.5 good. While Unheard stumbles through a few technical issues, its premise alone makes it thoroughly enjoyable. Though short, every minute of Unheard is packed with intrigue, and there's something immensely satisfying about having the aha moment when the pieces click together. Pro's unique puzzle game, well-written scenarios, complex interwoven stories, and charming voice acting. Cons are some hand-holding, unskippable cutscenes. It's very short, it has no replay value, a weak in-game note system, and wonky directional audio. It's not so bad that I would eliminate it from the fall list because of this review, so I'll leave it on the fall list and see if I can get a little bit more feedback. Alright, so let's open these packs and see what we get. It's almost a slap in the face to be getting these other expansion packs. It's nice though. I like it because I definitely didn't open too many Witchwood packs, and here's a Witchwood pack for free. But the better strategy, and that's probably why they're doing this way, would be for them to give us just more Rise of the Shadow cards, so we play more Rise of the Shadow cards, which will not go into Wild for the longest amount of time, as of right now. It is also possible that they're just recognizing that so many players had so few of these new expansion cards that playing in standard is going to be very much split between people who are playing 100% classic cards and people who have complete collections for all the new expansions and are playing completely different levels of quality. And that was like all of the cards just marked off and dusted. So where are all these cards that are marked as new? I guess maybe these are all new things. It might be. Maybe not. It would have been really nice, but unrealistic to believe that I was going to end up with having a couple thousand dust at the end of this new expansion. Ideally, I would like to be at that point, some point, before I give up on Hearthstone and just have complete collections and be sitting on dust so that I can craft new cards when they occur. There we go. Alright, so we have 4 more games pages to cover, so let's just cover them. Here's a game on Steam called VIP Shuttle, which is a VR game where you're flying a poorly animated shuttle. It doesn't look particularly interesting. It's free and requires VR, so you might try it out if you paid for a VR game, a VR headset, but I wouldn't expect a lot from it. Gamasutra has that article I was talking about. Moonlighter has sold 500,000 copies in less than a year. That's frankly quite a small amount compared to a AAA game where you should be selling somewhere between 2 and 20 million copies. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what a good amount of sales is. 500,000 for a game that, let's say, was $60. Well, let's just say it was $50. That's $2.5 million of gross income, which might be more than enough to pay back the development cost and the advertisement for a game like Moonlighter. But it also took it a year to get that sales, and I doubt a year from now there'll be up to $1 million in sales, or anywhere close. I imagine they've probably gotten as much money as they'll get for the next decade or so. Just small trickles, maybe 400,000 next year at most, and then 300,000 at the next year, and then 200,000. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Broken, which seems to be like a 3-dimensional you control the ball mini putt-putt idea. It's not polished enough in its art style here and in the variety of what I'm seeing. $5.99 for this game. Yeah, it's just not enough variety. I expect to see different kinds of terrain and sand and not floating in the air for no reason, and like a windmill. I don't even know if there's a hole that this ball is actually trying to reach or what. There was a game called Glover for the Nintendo 64 that you were basically controlling a glove that was controlling a ball, and that was kind of a annoying pain in the butt game to play too, particularly since the ball that the Glover was pushing often changed shape, and you can change it to a crystal and then break it and have to start over at a checkpoint. Gamasutra has Gametsu has the same article here. Yakuza Kiwami 2 is coming to PC on May 9th via Steam. Yep. I guess I should just make sure that page is on the list. Then I have one more TechRaptor article and then Humble Bundle, and then we'll just end this stream. TechRaptor has an article here. Steam developer tips shared by Gunpoint dev Tom Francis. Usually you see these kind of blogs and information on Gamer Sutra. Seeing TechRaptor go down that route might be an interesting move, because frankly I don't like half of what's posted on Gamer Sutra. Let's see. Apparently there's a full post on his own website. User review score isn't as important as you might think for Steam visibility. Unless it's mostly negative, it won't have an impact on your page visibility per Valve's algorithm. I think I may have already read this article by this guy though, too. And a lot of it is just guessing. It's informed guessing at best, but guessing still. Alright, now I'm at the Humble Bundle store, and let's see if there's any new bundles. Nope, no new bundles. So the humongous games, the point-and-click adventures for children, sort of, but really, really old games, is really the only bundle of even slight mention. And apparently Star Wars The Fallen Order has tweeted out the Jedi Fallen Order thing here. Seems like it's a 7-second just slightly moving video. It says accept the past, hashtag Star Wars Fallen Order. It seems to me the phrase Fallen Order implies that it is going to be set for episode 9, and I wouldn't be surprised if episode 9 was called something Fallen Order. Let's see. Oh, there was a story, a lewd artist who was making Warcraft arts with the Warcraft creatures being nude and such in flagrante, got a cease and desist by what is it, Blizzard? Yeah. So and that's just kind of ridiculous and silly that Blizzard would bother to send a cease and desist to an artist, even if he was slightly well known and popular. It's just like, yeah, I know Blizzard also tries to do that with Overwatch porn, but there's plenty of that, and they just need to kind of give up on it. Just pretend like you don't know it exists, and just give a wink and a nod to it, and it's like, hey, if that's your kink, if that's what you're into, whatever, we're never gonna acknowledge it, and that's all you can do. Compare that to Nintendo and the Bowsette issue meme that popped up for several weeks. Nintendo just kind of ignored it and didn't respond to it, and eventually it just fell to the side of being a meme still, certainly, but not something so popular or so fresh or so new that it really mattered. Just scroll down my Twitter feed. There's no other news to talk about, so that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.